Your race or phenotype, and more specifically your admixture, determines the likely range of traits that your genes can express, and in turn, which physical traits you will likely have. That is, what you might look like. There seems to be a lot of variation between what a below average to average looking man of each race might look like. At lower looks levels, particular traits seem to be more specific to particular phenotypes. For instance, dependent on admixture, a black man is likelier to have lips thicker than what is generally seen as attractive. An Asian is likelier to have mild ptosis or drooping of the upper eyelid. Imperfections in Caucasian skin, such as rosacea, cause more of a noticeable contrast. Conversely, the better looking a man is, the more his features tend to transcend the boundaries of his race. It's almost as if good-looking men are their own race.
Donc c'est plus facile de transformer un blanc en noir qu'un noir en blanc. Les visages de black, effectivement, bon, les nez sont quand même un peu plus épatés, les ailes de nez, également le profil des nez sont beaucoup plus rentrés, les lèvres plus charnues, parfois les pommettes. Malheureusement, en maquillage, on a des limites.
Physical traits more commonly associated with whites, or at least with Caucasians, are generally seen as the most attractive, not just by whites themselves, but by other races too.
Oh mon Dieu, c'est pas possible. Oh.
Your snuggling appeal to the masses, be they black, white or Asian, is somewhat dependent upon how Western you look.
Attends.
Oh là là!
Mais c'est pas croyable.
Is it me, or do the women in this family have massive hands?
Oh ma fille. Oh, t'es belle, ma fille. T'es très belle.
Although the makeup used in this experiment is not perfect, it shows us how the exact same person's snuggling market and social value can be raised or lowered just by having whiter or less white features, respectively. Compared to the black to white transformations, this family's snuggling market and social value plummet when being transformed from white to black, almost literally a black pill for non-whites. The average white man has more snuggling market value than the average black or Asian. The paper Gendered Racial Exclusion Among White Internet Daters explored the racial dating preferences among the majority demographic in the West, white men and women, so the impact is far-reaching. Many shocking black pills were revealed. Any green bar shows the rate of inclusion or preference. Any red bar shows the rate of exclusion or dislike. Of the 59% of white men and 72% of white women who stated a racial preference, 29% of white men prefer to date whites only, whereas a devastating bedridden making 64% of white women prefer to date whites only. Over 90% of white women prefer not to date Indians, Middle Easterners, Asians, and blacks. That is, according to this survey, the majority of women in a Western nation like the United States, and probably also in other Western nations like the United Kingdom, France, Germany, and Australia, I repeat, a sizable majority of women in the West probably don't want to date you if you are Indian, Middle Eastern, Asian, or black. Are women more agreeable than men? The women's results in this study especially may be understated. Why? For one, women, even in anonymity, care far more than men that they are perceived in a positive light. They are less likely to express controversial viewpoints that could spell some unknown comeuppance which they can't defend themselves against. Remember, we're talking about biological hardwiring here. 2. Women, more than men, feel better about themselves when expressing their capacity to be benevolent, so their answers are far more likely to reflect an idealistic, theoretical openness to interracial dating, even if they would never actually do it in practice. The virtue signaling gender. White men prefer not to date only one group at levels above 90%, black women. Latinos and Latinas are the most included non-white racial group for both white men and women. Still, 77% of white women with stated racial preferences prefer not to date Latinos. However, only 48% of white men exclude Latinas. The study also found that among the 59% of white men and 72% of white women who stated a racial preference, 1.25% of white men wanted only Asian women, whereas only 0.13% of white women wanted only Asian men. 0.37% of white men wanted black women only. However, 1.46% of white women wanted black men only, a niche that we'll discuss in an upcoming episode. The preferences of those who use online dating do not represent society as a whole, but they aren't completely out of step with the preferences of those who date offline. E.g., many white women who want to date black men may be less likely to use online dating to find black male partners. They are more likely to socialize in places that give them greater access to black men. The largest demographic of women in the West, white women, would prefer to date within their race. White women's own race preference often comes ahead of good looks. In rare outlying cases where a white woman is dating below her looks level, her partner is usually white. Relationships in which a white woman prioritized her own race preference ahead of good looks may not be successful, however. BBC News: can couples be intimate without having snuggles? We're in love but never have snuggles. This may sound as if all is fair. If most white women want white men, surely most black, Latina, Asian, and Indian women want black, Latino, Asian, and Indian men respectively, right? Nope. OkCupid data showed that white men get the most response from women of all racial backgrounds. Note that Asian women respond to Asian men, 22% response rate, less than they do to white men, 29%. Not only do most studies show that Asian women prefer even unattractive white men to their own men, but Asian women themselves admit it. Would you rather have a 6 out of 10 white boyfriend or 8 out of 10 Asian? Be honest.
6 out of 10. Anything but Asian. How are you on Tinder with a face like yours? Haha.
Would you rather have a 6 out of 10 white boyfriend or 8 out of 10 Asian?
I'm not into Asians, so white boyfriend it is.
My mom told me I should marry a white guy so I could have cute half Asian, half white babies, lol. That's her life goal for me, lol. My mom told me that I need to marry either a white guy or half Asian, half white so my kids can be cute. Lol, oh god.
I prefer to date Caucasian men.
My preference is for Caucasian white Australian male. And even just the physical value of beauty, even though they don't, my parents would never say, oh, being white is beautiful. It'd be things like, get out of the sun, you're getting darker.
The hatred for darkness and preference for whiteness runs deep in Asian communities especially.
For a lot of Asian people, being dark-skinned is actually associated with working labour class.
So that affects who you're attracted to?
Yes,
yeah?
Because in my youth, I would have interpreted that as, get out of the sun, you're getting darker.
I'm attracted to Caucasian also.
And what are you attracted to about Caucasian men?
They are a good husband, better than a Filipino, I think.
Black pill for Asian men. What she's thinking but not saying is white men are more attractive, masculine, wealthier, taller, and have bigger dicks.
What are the women looking for?
Blue eyes, long hair, strong, tall body.
Asian women's love of white men borders on white supremacy. Literally, this Asian pussy is for white men only. I only suck white Asian men, go away. I'm not the cure to your yellow fever. Hashtag I defy stereotypes. I want some big white blow kiss. White is always right. Any white man who can't get a white girlfriend would have better luck with Asian women. Other ethnicities of men don't have this luxury. According to another study, only 5.98% of Asian American women prefer Asian American men, while almost 40% prefer not to date Asian American men, but we'll look at that another time. A below-average looking man posted the following on Reddit's Am I Ugly forum. So I've been using dating sites and Tinder, but rarely get any Tinder matches, and I don't really get replies from dating websites. I was wondering if it was just purely because of my looks, so what do y'all think? Being below average looking doesn't cut it anymore, especially for non-white men. There are so many other guys on Tinder with good looks and good personalities to match. This man has no idea what he's trying to compete with. If I make it to $25 US in donations, I'll upload this video uncensored to BitChute. We've looked at how getting to low body fat is the first step in Looksmaxxing. The more unattractive you are facially, the more you need to be low body fat, as the bones in your face are less prominent with respect to the fat held in your face. The next step is going to the gym, which these days, if you are facially unattractive, isn't guaranteed to up your looks, but you won't know your potential unless you try to unlock it. It's not just about working out, but actually getting a gym body. Heed this, be you over or underweight. The aim isn't to look like a powerlifter, but to look lean with muscle definition. Anything above that spells diminishing returns for your physical attractiveness to everyday women, and may even become a turn-off. This is far from a catch-all solution for all men though, because your bodily frame as well as your face matters. In most situations you are not going to be topless. So it's the combination of your face, muscle mass, and frame that will add to your masculinity, not just the muscle mass. Black pill. How quickly a woman becomes at ease with you is determined by your looks.
You look like my cup of tea.
Good, give me your number.
So demanding, ha. Only because you're really hot. 077.
Coming up, more Looksmaxxing. Women continue to black pill us to death with their behavior, and the Snuggles manhood black pill.